easier to read a statement. Maybe I can I help here a little bit?
I'll just jump ahead. How's that?
Okay.
Because of all this retaliation and discrimination, a group of us filed a complaint with the EEOC.
Right.
We filed it last January or so, and when the EEOC called the National Guard Bureau and the California National Guard to see what was going on, they told the EEOC, well, yes, we've heard that there's rumblings of discrimination and retaliation, but General Baldwin here, he was just installed. You know, you got to give him some time to see what's going on, give him some time to fix the problems, you know, and then give us some time, National Guard Bureau, to do our own investigation, and we'll give you the report, EEOC.
The National Guard Bureau is a state or a federal entity?
It's a federal entity that covers the California National Guard.
I understand. Okay.
Right.
Go ahead.
So they would come out and do an investigation, give the report to the EEOC, who would then come out based on that report and do their own independent investigation on 1 October when the new fiscal year came out, because that's when they have money and they could come out and
October 1 of 2011.
Yes,
right.
Sir. Well, that was 10 months ago. We interviewed with the investigators from the National Guard Bureau. It's been 9 months since the report was written by the two investigators. One was from Utah and one was from Oklahoma, so they were independent. They knew nobody, they knew nothing in the California National Guard, so we thought that was quite impartial. However, the California National Guard and the National Guard Bureau reneged on their promise to the EEOC. They never gave them that report.
Does General Baldwin have any say over the National Guard Bureau?
No, they have say over him.
They have say over him. So
Yes,
your complaint, and again, I've read the statement, is that the National Guard Bureau has been slow to respond to your complaint that you filed about retaliation and discrimination at the California National Guard.
No, what I'm saying is the National Guard Bureau and the California National Guard both got the report, and they refused to release it to us.
Got what report?
The investigation.
Oh, so the investigation
Yes.
was complete. Okay,
Correct.
Go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead.
So they refused to release it, and they've had it for 9 months. The JAGs at both the National Guard Bureau and the California National Guard, they both have copies of it. And it's my sincerest belief that they haven't released it because they didn't want it to stand in General Baldwin's way today.
Okay, that's a very good synopsis. I'd like to you stay at the witness table here, but I want to hear General Baldwin's response to this, because it's a very stark allegation. You're saying here that the California National Guard has held on to information for 9 months that would make the general and the guard look bad, essentially, and that
Yes, sir.
and they haven't released it.
Correct, sir.
What's your response to that?
Senator, I'm aware of that investigation that was conducted because though the complaint was filed before I became the Adjutant General about the system before I became the Adjutant General, I became aware of it because of an anonymous email that I received, I think the first day that I was in command, maybe the second day to command, addressed to me, the 3-star general that's the Inspector General of the Air Force, and the 3-star general that's the Director of the Air National Guard. I took that complaint very, very seriously. I went to Washington, D.C., and one of the items that I discussed with the senior leadership of the National Guard Bureau was, at this point, the investigation had not occurred. Why had they not sent out investigators? And they agreed to do it right away. I simultaneously, because I didn't want to wait for the investigation to run its course, asked for an assistance visit from the Equal Opportunity Division of National Guard Bureau to come out and look at our equal opportunity programs to make sure our processes and training were right. They did that. They found problems. We worked to fix them. The investigation ran its course. They completed the investigation. To date, the California National Guard has never received the results of that investigation. I have asked as recently as last week in writing back to the Chief of the National Guard Bureau to request a copy of the report.
Ms. Wong?
Yes.
Okay.
So
the general just said that he's never seen the report. Are you saying that's not true?
I don't know if it is or isn't.
You're saying that the California National Guard or some representative of the California National Guard has that report. General saying that's not true.
No, it is true, because the investigator sent an email to me stating that he gave the report to the California National Guard JAG office, not just NGB's office, JAG office.
Okay, have you checked with the JAG office, General?
My JAG office says that the lawyers at NGB have the report, and there's problems with its legal sufficiency, which is why National Guard Bureau will not release it to us. I have asked them to release it to us. And by the way, Senator, because of the concerns that Major Wong has raised, if there are still problems in the equal opportunity system, at the same time that I asked for them to release that report, I asked for a second assistance visit last week to come down to take a look at our program of how it's been now a year later.
Okay, well, do you have any, do you have that email? That you
I did. I gave it to Mr. Williams 2 weeks ago. And I also sent it to you, I think. I emailed it to you. So.
I get a few emails.
If you'd like, I can email it to you again.
No, that's all right. Okay, finish your testimony,
Okay.
please. So,
So I quite honestly, I feel that overall, the leaders in the California National Guard, they mock the laws that you create. You work so hard to create for the citizens of California, and they mock you because they know they can get away with it because there's no accountability whatsoever. There isn't. For example, about 3 months ago, another officer in my unit repeatedly told our Vice Commander, Colonel Jeffrey Magrum, who was appointed by General Baldwin here, that the CDI he wanted to launch against a member would be illegal without an official complaint. Despite the repeated subject matter expert counselings that he gave to Colonel Magrum, he was still ordered to conduct a CDI in front of the JAG, and worse, our wing commander, Colonel Stephen Bucky Buteau, both who said nothing to stop the illegal order. In other words, they condoned the illegal action, and in most officers' books, they were just as guilty as a wrongdoer. But hey, no one's watching, so
General Baldwin know about this?
No, because the whistleblower won't come forward because he's afraid.
Okay, but remember now, you are...
I understand.
Okay.
I understand, sir, but you have to understand there's 23,000 of us. We don't all directly work for General Baldwin, but he's responsible for these commanders who allow these illegal behaviors to
General,
go on.
will you investigate this allegation that
Absolutely,
Major Wong just...
Absolutely, Senator.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to summarize now and complete your testimony, please.
I've served for 18 years. The Air Force has spent thousands of dollars teaching me what equal opportunity is. They actually invited me back to teach at the Defense Equal Opportunity Management Institute. I have a law degree. I studied employment law. I know what discrimination and retaliation is, and it's going on, sir. It is still going on, and we're hurting.
Well, what are you going to do, General, to respond to, in general? I mean, you hear somebody 18 years who's coming forward in good faith here. What are you going to do? Going to maybe set up a meeting with the Major and some of her colleagues and try to get at the root of some of the things that maybe you don't even know at this point?
Yes, Senator. As a matter of fact, just this past weekend, I sent Brigadier General Witham, who's the brand new from out-of-state commander of the Air National Guard here in California, down to the wing to conduct town hall meetings, to hear from the airmen there, to give him a chance as the newly installed commander to fix that organization first as I become further involved. Since I've been in command, though, from every allegation that's come up from the wing, I have asked for independent outside experts to come in to investigate these claims. I brought in a general from another state independently to come in and investigate the claims. We brought in experts from the Equal Opportunity Department from NGB, as I said, the Air Force Inspector General, and now the Department of Defense Inspector General. I take the...
Thanks. I'm going to ask for the next witness now. Thank you very much, Ms. Wong. Appreciate it, Major. Briefly, please.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Marvin Willis. I'm a former staff sergeant in the California Air National Guard. I filed an EEO and EO complaint and I was terminated from the Air National Guard.
By General Baldwin?
General Baldwin wasn't in command at the time, but since then I filed reports with the Inspector General's office for retaliation, and I've never gotten a reply. I only was denied and said I couldn't be in the Guard.
Okay, what's your complaint against General Baldwin?
My complaint is that his Inspector General, Colonel Donaldson, that works directly for him,
Has not responded to your complaint.
I haven't got an affirmative complaint. No, I haven't.
Okay, what do you know the status, General? Will you look into the status of this Inspector General complaint, please, and report back to the committee?
I will, Senator.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
I'll
for
give you a
testifying.
copy, General.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next.
Senators, good evening. My name is Senior Master Sergeant Anthony Kilmer. I'm a member of the 129th Rescue
Your
Wing.
name again.
Senior Master Sergeant Anthony Kilmer.
Kilmer.
Major Baldwin should not be confirmed as Adjutant General of the California National Guard. On 7 July,
If you're reading a statement, I'm going to ask you not to. We can make a statement part of the record. I'm going to ask you to summarize briefly why you oppose General Baldwin.
sir, because of the appointments he's done at the 129th of appointing Colonel Buteau and Colonel Magram as the wing commander and vice commander and give them a lot of leeway and latitude in making changes, they are not following the California National Guard full-time personnel regulations in removing or moving people around from their positions.
This was the unit that was fraught with problems prior to General Baldwin taking command. People on sleep, what did you call it, doze time?
Dozing for dollars, Senator. That was the fighter wing. This is our rescue wing in Moffett Field and Senator.
Oh, this is a different unit. I apologize. Okay, I apologize. That's a different unit. Go ahead, sir. So since he's come on, he's made changes that you say are not in conformance with the personnel rules.
The commander and vice commander he appointed at the 129th have made changes at the unit that do not comply with the regulations that the state has set forward.
Can you give me one example?
One example is my maintenance group commander, Colonel Apostol, has been detailed or temporarily promoted to the position for more than 120 days, which is in violation of multiple personnel regulations.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem, sir.
Want to respond to that?
Sir, that's the first that I've heard that they're violating that personnel regulation, and we'll look into it. And if it's wrong, I'll have them fix it.
Okay. Thank you very much for testifying, sir. We appreciate it. Next.
Good evening, Senators.
Good evening.
General Baldwin. My name is CW4 Catherine Lindberg. I have 33 years in the California National Guard. I'm a 25 years pilot. I've flown earthquakes, floods, fires, search and rescue for the state of California. Most of my career has been with the California Guard full-time. I flew 6 years as civilian medevac life flight pilot as well in Fresno. I have over 4,500 hours. Been in many capacities with the Guard, full-time, part-time. I filed a complaint in 2008, an EEO complaint. To this day, that complaint has not been investigated.
Did you filed it with?
I filed it with the California National Guard.
California National Guard.
The counselor came out and started to investigate the complaint, and after that happened, my boss immediately started reprisal on me. All the other pilots there did so, all the other employees. I was pulled from flying. And to back up a minute, I was a maintenance test pilot supervisor as a federal civilian employee under federal law. And so I filed the complaint, immediately got retaliation. I was pulled from flying, pulled from all kinds. I was isolated. I was humiliated, demoralized. 8 months later, I was ordered to a psychiatric evaluation when I didn't go away with the bullying and reprisal repeatedly. So they ordered that up. That violated DOD regulations, improper command-directed mental health evaluations. It also violates federal law for psychiatric evals.
If I might ask you, first of all, I'm very sorry for what you have experienced. General Baldwin became the general
Right.
in the early part of 2011. If you could focus your comments on what he did or did not do in response to either your original complaint or your retaliation complaint.
What has happened is this agency is not leaning forward to investigate this. General Baldwin has every opportunity and the authority to fix this. He can order an impartial investigation that should have been ordered 4 years ago. He can remedy it. He can find out the damage that's been done that you don't want to hear about right now. He can figure that out. He can discipline the wrongdoers and get those people out of his command. Today, one of those commanders is still he appointed as his chief of staff. There's a DOD investigation going on. These things aren't going away. They're on his watch now. He inherited it.
Okay.
So that's why I want to tell you about how we got to this position. It's been ugly, but he has the authority today to do something about it.
Okay. It's Captain? Is it
Catherine.
I'm
Catherine.
sorry, I heard Catherine, but your rank, I'm sorry.
CW4, Chief Warrant Officer 4.
Chief Warrant Officer Lindberg. I'll make sure General, are you familiar with her complaint?
I am, sir, and Ms. Lindberg came up to see me in my office last week. I get briefed on her case every week. It is at the National Guard Bureau for adjudication.
4 years?
Well, I don't know if that's the original complaint, but the one that's up there now, and I have contacted the National Guard Bureau to have them bring it to resolution. In addition, because her statement to me in my office was so compelling, I directed my brand new human resources officer, who's only been on the job for about 2 months, to review all of the technician actions and the command actions. But independently, and actually just today, I asked the union to look into it from their side so I can have an independent look from the union as well as my own new human resource officer to look at it.
Ms. Lindberg, was last week the first time you had directly brought your concern to General Baldwin?
Yes, I attempted 2 other times, and last week I finally broke through. So thank you, sir. I appreciate him listening to me.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it. Next.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
My name is Clayton Smith. I'm at the Joint Force Headquarters. I am essentially the State Partnership Program Coordinator/Director.
Okay.
I have a full written statement that I'll forward later to all the committee, but I'll just keep it brief. I've got 3 points and 2 requests. To be clear, sir, I'm not requesting assistance from the California National Guard or anybody in the DOD. I have gone outside. The 3 points I wish to raise specifically do have no disrespect to Major General Baldwin, but my concerns are specifically not limited to, but include Major General Baldwin's retention and recent appointment of a senior ranking state active duty officer, Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Rigello.
Name again?
I'm sorry? Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Rigello.
Rigello?
Yes, sir.
Rigello.
To be his Director of Compliance and Management Controls. This individual I accused of fraud, waste, and abuse, a long history of fraud, waste, and abuse with the State Partnership Program in 2007.
Was that adjudicated? Your claim of fraud?
It was briefly concluded. I was told over the phone by Major IG Major Delwich at the time. He told me, yes, it was confirmed, and he said, quote, "The practices have been stopped."
Okay.
And in the closure letter from the IG, it was 1 sentence. That's it.
We'll ask the General about this in a second. Go through the other 2 very quickly, please.
Yes, sir. In his position as Chief of Staff under Major General Wade, while he was not directly responsible for the ceremony, he was Chief of Staff under Major General Wade when illegal, unconstitutional international agreements were entered into by the California National Guard on behalf of the state of California with civilian ministries of a foreign power.
Okay, number 3.
3, what I believe to be a conspiracy to cover up historical abuses of the State Partnership Program. And I have that from somebody who's familiar with my IG case back in 2007. He said he was amazed, quote, he was amazed at how well they covered it up.
Prior to General Baldwin's
Yes, sir.
appointment?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I thank you for your testimony. I want to ask you about this Righello thing. That's the one I want to ask you about. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I was aware that there was an Inspector General investigation done by the independent federal Inspector General of Colonel Righello and his activities when he was in charge of the state partnership program. The active Army Inspector General told me that the charges were unsubstantiated. However, if he has other evidence to show me differently, I'll go back with them and make sure that we were talking about the same case and to make sure there's not another case that I'm not aware of.
Okay. Thank you for testifying.
I had 2 points, sir, if I may.
Your 2 requests.
I had 2 requests, sir. It'll be in my full paper, but I would request if there's an opportunity to be part of a committee on oversight reform, because I have a lot of ideas that I would like to bring forward to independent minds. And
Senator Ted Lieu, the chair of our Veterans Affairs Committee, suggests you contact his office. I'm sure he would love to hear from you. Go ahead.
Yes,
second.
Sir. And the other was simply to repeat my request for an investigation into the conspiracy to cover up the abuses.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for taking.
Senator, if I could add, I'd welcome.
Let's. Okay. Next witness. No, next witness, please.
Good evening. My name is Sergeant First Class Christopher Mott. I'm prior service with the Navy, and I was with the State Military Reserve and the Military Department from 2004 to June 2011. In my 6.5 years, I received over 40 awards and decorations and was the Brigade Soldier of the Year twice. In my position as Personnel NCO, I noticed systemic abuses and criminal activity within the Military Department and the State Military Reserve. These included, but were not limited to, illegal fundraising and money laundering, illegal appointments and promotions, and systemic EEO violations with regard to the SAD program, falsification of government documents, including attendance records, workers' compensation reports, and annual personnel evaluations that were being done so that SMR personnel on SAD could keep their lucrative SAD jobs.
What year?
This was as far from 2008 to 2010 in my position as a personnel NCO. I saw it every month when I went to drill. I saw records being falsified.
Okay, nothing since the beginning of 2011.
I'm getting to that, sir. I promise it's going to be relevant to General Baldwin. I tried my chain of command. I tried everything. I eventually went to the Inspector General. Once I did that, I was immediately retaliated against. I was removed from my position. I was relieved of my duties and denied promotion. I was isolated. My computer account was turned off. Individuals were ordered to not speak to me. My car was impounded and towed off the base. A wanted poster of me was placed at the front gate with orders to keep me off the post so that I couldn't speak to other soldiers. Eventually, a charge of disobeying an order was falsified against me. I was told there would be an investigation. I was pulled aside by my supervisor and told that regardless of how the investigation came out, that I would be found guilty and discharged. Eventually, that was done. I called my commander and asked him why he didn't come forward and support me, and he said that he was threatened by the lawyers not to come forward, and that if he did, that he would be discharged.
Have you filed a complaint?
I have filed numerous complaints, sir, and they have
on the retaliation.
Yes, sir, I have. I have filed them with.
Where is that complaint?
They went to the State Inspector General office, where they were promptly ignored, and they have been ignored for years.
They're pending. No, I'm talking about your retaliation complaint.
Yes, sir. My retaliation.
Is that pending currently in a formal sense?
It was disregarded.
Well, I don't know what that means.
It was considered to have no basis.
So you did get a. You did get a conclusion, if you will, even if it was one you didn't like, from the Inspector General.
Well, I'm getting to that, sir. Okay. I know.
Wrap it up.
I understand. I'm trying to wrap it up.
The hour's getting late, and I don't want to get impatient.
I understand, sir, but I've already given up my flight, and I'm stuck here for 24 hours, so I just need a couple of minutes. I promise I'm going to make this short. I sent all my documents to General Baldwin in June of 2011. Right after I received my discharge notice, I sent him copies of my complaints. I sent him a letter asking him for his help. It was ignored. It was not answered until 3 months later when Senator Correa handed a copy to him personally. That's when I got a response from him. And it has had no action on it until 2 weeks ago when I got a letter from the Adjutant General's office stating that they did not investigate the complaints, and based solely on reading the complaints themselves, no investigation, just reading the complaints, that they could find no evidence to substantiate the complaints.
General?
I'm not aware of the Inspector General complaints, and I will follow up on those to see if they were received, and if they were received, if an investigation was conducted and what the outcome of the investigation. As far as the command investigation, because we can investigate through 2 different systems, we did initiate an investigation. I don't recall if I initiated that investigation or if it was initiated by my predecessor. I'm willing to share the results of that investigation with this committee or with Senate Veterans Affairs. If there are additional charges or allegations that we need to investigate, we'll do it.
We'll follow up on that, all right?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. By the way, I misspoke earlier. Senator Correa is the chair of the Veterans Affairs Committee, not Senator Liu. So I apologize to Senator Correa.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Graciela Contreras, and I am an EEO specialist. I work in JFHQ. I have been working there for almost 5 years, and I see some serious systemic problems with our EEO and EO programs. I have seen an abuse of authority, power and authority, and I believe that there is a systemic and cultural problems that are deeply embedded in JFHQ. This has created an extremely hostile work environment. Discrimination runs rampant. There is no accountability. Managers are allowed to do whatever they want. We also have the JAGS office that's always in our business. 29 CFR Part 1614, as amended, states clearly that the JAGS office is not supposed to be in our office and in EEO business.
General Baldwin, what has he done or not
yes,
done?
Yes, it is under his purview.
What has he done or not done to either improve or not improve the environment?
Nothing that I know of, sir, because as he stated earlier, the SEAM does brief him on all the cases that are currently ongoing. I don't know, I'm not privy to those meetings, so I don't know exactly how much information is shared, but nothing has been done to fix the problems, and they were there before I started, and they're ongoing right now.
Okay.
What I understand is the plan is that they are going to start taking the civil rights away from our federal technician personnel. That is the people that wear the uniform, but are really just like me. They're only weekend warriors. They're going to claim the Ferris Doctrine for that because they don't want to pay out any money for EEO complaints. I heard that from a person who was privy to and that was in a meeting where a presentation was given already about the plan and how they're going to do that.
Okay.
That is in direct conflict with 29 CFR.
Okay. General, this is more of a broad complaint. Again, I'd ask you if you would to look into and address these issues of culture, really, is what, and the complaint that even if you are, and I believe you are, trying to change the culture, that the change isn't happening fast enough. Okay?
Yes, Senator, I appreciate that. And also, I would invite you, any of the meetings I have with the weekly, with the SEAM, you're invited to attend.
I would love to be included.
Sure. Thank you. You just got an invite. Next witness, please. Thank you very much for coming.
I have a statement from the one that I need to submit, or would you like me to read it?
No, I need you to submit the statement, if you would, please. We'll make it part of the record. If you can brief name and title, and if you could briefly summarize, I'd appreciate it.
That statement is from Lieutenant Colonel David Emery.
From you?
That statement I'm just submitting is from Lieutenant Colonel David Emery.
That's you?
That's not me.
Well,
and
you're submitting a statement from somebody else, okay?
Yes.
Who's not here to testify.
That's correct.
And is your testimony from yourself, or are you summarizing?
No, my testimony is for myself.
Okay.
So,
Briefly, please.
my name is Lieutenant Colonel Antonio Rodriguez, Jr. I've been in the Armed Forces for almost 28 years as of next month. I've been active duty for 10 years. I've been in multiple National Guard units. I was Wyoming Air National Guard, the Colorado Air National Guard, and now with the California Air National Guard. The culture that I see here that is embedded is very deep. The actions that need to be taken will take a lot of time and possibly years to correct. It's so embedded. My specific requirements in regards to my non-confirmation request for General Baldwin is that 2 officers that he appointed directly, going outside of the Office of Personnel Management guidelines, Colonel Stephen Buteau as the wing commander.
Last name again?
Colonel Stephen Buteau. Buteau, wing commander of the 129th Rescue Wing. And Colonel Jeffrey Megram as the vice wing commander. Once appointed, they immediately took action and removed the command element of the Mission Support Group in retaliation for opposition for our upcoming inspection that we had, that we wound up receiving a marginal grade for. The previous commander, Colonel Amos Bagdasarian, brought this wing to a satisfactory grade for our Phase 1 operational readiness inspection. We received an excellent grade for operational readiness inspection Phase 2 and a satisfactory unit compliance inspection grade from the Air Combat Command Inspector General. He was removed from office without announcement 5 months prior to his retirement and was appointed directly Colonel Buteau. As a result, I lost my position as the commander of the 129th Communications Flight through frivolous charges by Colonel Buteau and Colonel Megram. Their actions continue within the 129th Rescue Wing.
Have you filed a complaint?
I have.
And is that pending?
It is pending.
Where at?
So through congressional complaint.
It's a congressional complaint. Any complaint with the Inspector General or anything at the state level?
Their recommendation is to move forward to the Air Force Inspector General and to copy them on.
That's the national...
That's the Air Force, the active duty Air Force.
I'm trying to think
General.
if there's anything that General Baldwin can or should do to make sure that he ensures you get a complete and fair response. That's what I'm asking. Does he have jurisdiction over any of the over any part of the complaint process?
Their complaint process is independent. If you
Okay.
have a complaint against a colonel or a general officer, it goes straight to the Air Force, and then the Air Force will come down and do an investigation and either substantiate those findings that I bring forward.
Yeah, but your complaint against General Baldwin is that he appointed 2 people who you say were acting in a discriminatory fashion.
Correct, and their friendship is part of that reason why they were appointed.
Thank you for testifying. Again, you got to let it play out within the proper channels here.
I just have one thing to add. As far as their ability to lead, they've created turmoil. They've created abuse of authority. They've wasted government funds. They've reprised against other members of this unit that oppose them. And all these characters are conduct unbecoming an officer. And Colonel Megram himself stated that he wasn't qualified to be the maintenance group commander or the vice wing commander himself to another staff officer.
Our obvious advice to the general is make sure that you look into these allegations from uniformed personnel here. You have to. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, would never do that.
These are from other people.
Okay, you want to submit to the sergeant. Very good. Okay, I think we have one more witness. 2 more.
Super Bowl commercial everybody's waiting for.
Two more witnesses. Please sit down.
My name is Charlotte Miller. As you know, I'm formerly Brigadier General in the California Military Department, and honored to have achieved that rank as the first woman in the California Army National Guard. loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. Those are the Army values that are an acronym for leadership. Do you want a leader that demonstrates some of them or all of them? I know we're running out of time, and you already have my written testimony, so I am just going to address 3 areas, 2 that Senator Alquist brought up and 1 that Senator Fuller brought up. The mishandling of 2 semi-automatic weapons. These 2 very lethal weapons went missing for 14 months before being recovered by the ATF in a sting operation. When asked, General Baldwin answer regarding the weapons loss focused on, I not only told the leadership, by virtue of my own 15-6, they should have known. Weapons loss occurs, it's a serious, serious incident in the military, and here is one that left a compound. It's on the streets. In this case, it was he that stopped the serious incident report. His subordinate commander did the right thing. He took it upon himself to stop the serious incident report. And he did that in lieu of reporting it up the chain. I'm not going to make the allegations that that something else was working at that time. But when he stopped that report, he stopped all of the resources of the Army National Guard could bring to bear to do a causative search for those weapons. So he put the citizens of California in danger minimally for 14 months. If it wasn't for the ATF, they could still be out there. The second point that Senator Alquist brought up was due process. In my case, specifically, my service ended upon the political appointment of General Baldwin. He ended my career for no other reason than for political and professional advantage, and he knows it. I do not understand his answer to saying that I was given due process when he terminated me in June of 2011 and he does an officer efficiency report relieving me for cause in August of 2011. How do you give a person due process 2 months after you fire them? I agree with him that the officer efficiency report was a method to provide me due process. That would have allowed me to appeal and go through. But I was already terminated, and he initiates it. As he stated, it is at the 3-star level. It was at NGB, National Guard Bureau, Policy Setting Headquarters for the National Guard. It's been up there since November of 2011. They don't know what to do with it. There's no commander's inquiry. There's no 15-6 investigation substantiating his allegations. So I don't understand where the due process comes from. But I say all of that just because I have to bring the point of order, because I really am not here about myself. I am not looking for reinstatement. I have 32 years of honorable service. My husband passed away this past summer. My closest family lives in Boston. I want to retire. I want to move on to the next chapter of my life. So this is not about me. This is about a leader operating in a gray area when we in the military have black and white. We try to stay objective as possible, and he's a very subjective leader, and he does that on purpose for his personal gain. The third issue that Senator Fuller brought up, she made mention about the removal of over, I think, 100 employees within the first 6 months of his command. In the military, we call that, forgive the language, kicking ass and taking names later. Those tactics can be useful in a combat environment, but as a department head with federal civil service, with active guard reserve, with state civil service, with state active duty, some with union representation, be careful of the swagger you are buying, or in this case, who you're voting for. Do not do this. Do not recommend to the Senate as a whole Dave Baldwin's appointment as the Adjutant General of the California Military Department. Thank you.
Thank you for testifying.
Is there any counter? Would you like me to stand fast?
No, that's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more witness. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Senators. Sir, nothing personal. I never met you.
And ma'am, I know that you have a written statement as well, which again, I'm going to ask you not to read.
I will summarize it, but I'd like to submit it also.
Of course.
My name is Araceli Inda. I am a former staff sergeant from Moffett, 129th. I am a proud 2-time Afghani veteran. I was also in the maintenance section with an all-male squadron of 90% males and myself. I am questioning the appointment of the leaders from Major General Baldwin. I understand he's recently promoted to Chief Master Sergeant Jason Redd. When I was in Afghanistan, then Master Sergeant Redd called me several times an effing bitch, the effing C word, stupid ass, among other names, and threatened to punch me in the throat. These complaints I did file, and believe it or not, Senators, they were substantiated. No punishment was given.
Who is this individual?
He's back there, the one that you all clapped for, Jason Redd.
Okay.
Yes. He continuously screamed at me. He continuously yelled at me. All of this stuff was substantiated. Now he's our Chief Command Sergeant of the National Guard. If this individual was to be investigated, I could assure you that several people feel the way I do. They're afraid of retaliation.
Excuse me, General, are you aware of any substantiated allegations involving Mr. Redd?
Senator, I'm aware now that I need to look into it.
You weren't aware before?
No, Senator.
But you will look into it?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I just feel that the more investigation needs to be put into our leaders. I had 14 years of wonderful service with not one reprimand once. I was also involuntarily honorably discharged because I stand up for myself at the unit. And I feel it's because I'm a woman, they don't want to hear my voice. I'm speaking on this behalf today because I know that your goal, sir, is women and minorities, and you want to see us advance. I am a woman and I am a minority. And when these incidents do occur, it bothers me more than I can even say. Colonel Magram, who you also appointed to the Vice Wing Commander, when I was involuntarily discharged, I was working in the maintenance section. I was given 30 days to finish my civilian service, and I was involuntarily moved against my will to work in public affairs because working in maintenance was bad for my safety. My supervisor, who needed me greatly, said, well, we'll put her in coveralls and steel-toe boots. Colonel Magram didn't want to hear it and moved me against my will. However, a gentleman by the name of Master Sergeant Dan Dufty retired at the same time. I asked what was going to be happening to him. They said they would move him. They ended up letting him stay his full 30 days in maintenance, wearing coveralls and steel-toe boots, which I find blatant discrimination on my behalf.
Again, you're asking General Baldwin to look into that allegation.
Yes. I would like you to investigate these leaders.
And General Baldwin, you will do that?
We'll begin the investigation tomorrow.
Thank you, ma'am.
Begin the appointments tomorrow.
Let's finish if you can.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm done.
You are done.
Those are
I
my
want to
biggest
thank
issues.
you for all of you, really, for your courage in coming up to testify, for your service to this state and to this country. And, please don't excuse the attempt at efficiency here as anything other than the fact that we're not a court of law here. We can't adjudicate all of these cases, but we want to hear from you, and most important, we want to hear what General Baldwin's response is to these sorts of allegations, which is the reason for the follow-up. So thank you very much for testifying.
Thank you, Senators.
Okay? All right. If there is no other testimony, this has been a long, long hearing, and I appreciate the patience of the members, of the staff, of the public, of the general, and his family. And on the one hand, you could sit here and say, boy, this is sure mystifying, because you hear there's a lot of fodder out there, and there's a lot of concern, less about General Baldwin, really, than about the need for real change in the National Guard. And so I've continued to come back to this question that I asked at the beginning of the hearing. Do I, as one member, as the chair, have reasonable confidence that under General Baldwin's leadership, the California National Guard will clean up its mess and inspire confidence? And my answer to that question is yes. I believe that you have taken aggressive steps in your tenure to deal with some of the scandals, reported scandals, that have plagued the Guard. I think it's very clear to me, especially based upon the witness testimony, the opposition, that your work is far from done. And maybe you have just scratched the surface in some ways. You've dealt with the most obvious scandals, and you testified, I think, at some length, sort of the controls and the protections that you have put into place to ensure that those don't ever happen again. But that's different, related, but different than this issue of culture and alleged favoritism and good old boy, as I said at the beginning of my statement earlier today. You've got to take the skeptics and the critics very seriously and make sure that you address their specific complaints and make sure that there is a culture in this military department that when anybody, especially people who are serving their country and who have served overseas, come forward and feel they've been treated unfairly, that's as much a part of your solemn oath and duty as anything else. And that'll be the test, whether or not people will say a year from now that, boy, it's still not perfect, but it is better. I have the confidence that you can do that. I think you, I'm impressed with just how steadfast you are in your desire, your stated commitment, and your actions in cleaning up this mess. You know, I was thinking earlier on, geez, what would it be like to trade positions here? And I don't want any part of it. So I'm prepared to support your nomination and to move it to the floor of the Senate with a positive recommendation.
Thank you.
We're going to be watching closely. And I know Senators Correa, Lieu, and our other colleagues are going to be watching very, very closely. And with that, I'd entertain a motion or any other comments.
I'd like to make a comment.
Yes, of course, Senator.
Thank you very much. I will be voting for your confirmation in this stage of the process and feel good about that. What I don't feel good about is what I see as some things that are continuing in the National Guard. And I see men and particularly ethnic minority women who have come forth, and both the men and the women, with great courage. We understand what can occur when people have the courage to stand up for themselves and for what they believe in. They want a National Guard to be fair. And so what I'm asking is that I would like to see you give a report to the Pro Tem, a detailed report that says how you're going to be dealing with these things and in what time frame. And also, I'd like to see you establish some kind of advisory committee that is composed of men and women of all levels who, in an open environment, have the opportunity to give criticism that you can treat as a friend. Mm-hmm. So with that, I would be happy to move.
Thank you. That's moved by Senator Ahlquist, and I think a follow-up to the committee, even post-confirmation, would be appreciated and expected on the status of some of these issues.
I will, Senator.
Senator De Leon.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I want to echo the Pro Tem's comments, as well as Senator Elaine Ahlquist. This has been a